right. Well, guys, good night.
Hi, Chris.
All right. So let me share my screen before I forget. All right. So here we are again, and I thought that today we would be doing some explorations with the other textures, you know. But turns out that let me just move this away. Turns out that I think I need to do some more work in the with the detailing stuff. I talked about like doing some work around the, you know, it's like the other areas, like the lips and maybe like some of the chin stuff, some wrinkles around the nose in here, sides of the face, and then ears. Can do something like that. I don't have anything sculpted in the forehead just yet, but I think we have plenty of stuff to do. So let's just turn it off here. All right, let's do this. And then this. Just keep visible whatever I need here. Ears we're gonna do later, so I'm gonna just do the face for now. Just hide that. And maybe I can save some more polygons here by doing this. Yeah, let's not, actually, let's do a square. Let's do the mask again. Alrighty. So let's see. So I have the model in there. Let's just go HD and do some work around the lips, I think, to start with. It's getting a little hot in here. Let me just strip. All right. So yeah, that's basically what we had yesterday, right? I did some more work. Did I do some work? I think I just did the forehead, other than the stuff I had here done during the class. But yeah, I added stuff to the forehead, which is basically like the same array of pores that I was using before. This little circle, just like with a very low intensity, and then some of that like a little random directional like micro wrinkles in there happening as well. So that's all I did. But we need to do some work around this area here. So let's turn off my my color first. And let's see. Let me just minimize this window here so I can actually see what I'm doing. I just rebooted my computer, by the way, because we are having those problems yesterday, and I didn't want to get into like any risk of you know, it's like having some crashes or running out of memory or things like that. So let me just open my Amazon Drive here very quickly. Let's see, Amazon photos. So I'm going to take a look at her lips. I have some other stuff, I think. Actually, better than that, let me just get another reference right here that's better. Just a second. Oh, she got a haircut today, by the way. So I think I'm going to be doing this type of hair. This she took in the car today. So she has this nice hairdo in here. So I think I'm going to be trying to mimic this one. It's going to be hard because there's some curls, but it's mostly straight. So it's going to be fun. So let's see where I have, what I have here. Let's see. Okay, this one. So this one is from a time that I took a picture of her lips, right? Like I was doing some macro stuff, but then again, like this kind of detail here, it's not gonna be completely visible, right? Like those little guys in here, it's not gonna be completely visible because there's a stretch happening, right? So it's stretching the lips because of the smile. So a lot of this detail is gonna go away, but I'm still gonna put some of them in there. So like those little ones. So basically like that's a good excuse to actually blend with the pores coming from that area, you know, it's like just to add some of those. And then obviously I found that picture the other day. There was this one here. Let's see. Where's my Amazon Drive again? This one. Okay, let me just open. Try to find it. This one. So So this is the one I was showing the other day. She has like those lines in there. It's maybe because her lips are a little bit dry in here, so I don't need to do them as deep. I can do a little bit more subtle than that. So I'm gonna be doing that combined with this one. So I'm gonna, let me just like move it here so I can actually have some space. And then let's just isolate the, like this area here probably, chin as well. So I can actually work just, oh, wrong one. Let me just invert it. All right, so let's just solo it. So we're just gonna sculpt this area around here. So we're gonna start by doing those little guys around here, and then I can blend them later on. There's some stretching that's gonna happen, obviously, because of the smile. But I'm gonna try to do, add some of them. At least you guys have a little clue about, you know, how to do it. So let's see, let's pick this, let's see, my brushes, carve. Let's start with the carve 3. It's that same brush, 39, right? With the alpha is slightly turned into a point. That one, you know, with lazy mouse, I'm gonna turn it off just in case, because I don't wanna have that bug of the whole thing crossing the entire model. So let's start with a couple of them here. So I'm gonna reduce the intensity. And I'm gonna start adding some of those guys. Let's see if the intensity is too much. Yeah, and it's symmetrical as well. So let me turn off symmetry for now. Just gonna, actually I can keep it on and just like start from the outside. And I'm gonna reduce the intensity a little bit, maybe like 12 or something. So let's do it right here. So we're gonna start some of those coming from the sides. Maybe a little bit smaller than that. And I'm gonna try not to do too parallel, right? So some of them are just like, you know, it's like a stretching, but without being too parallel, right? So if I do one like going down, I'm gonna go, you know, it's slightly diagonal in the next one. Trying to do that. And then just like creating some of those, I'm gonna start like actually bringing from the top here. Setting some of that. And then if I need to smooth that out because of the, you know, it's like the intensity, it might be a little bit intense if I'm gonna do like a smile, right? So just gonna bring it down a little bit. Just gonna try to blend starting from the pores themselves. And then down. Here, same I'm gonna do around here. So I'm gonna start doing first, like we're gonna get some of this little wrinkles. And again, like this is all like trying to control the intensity, right? Yeah, I can just like cross some of them. Go a little bit more diagonal. So here, I'm gonna start bringing towards the pores themselves. And try to bring a little bit deeper when it gets closer to the pores. I normally like I don't do like every time the same direction, so I go down a little bit and then I go up, kind of like a zigzag, and then pressing the Alt button just to keep it like that, or you can just click the sub and then you don't need to press Alt, so you can rest your finger. So let's just smooth it out, just the borders, and then when I get more towards the center here, I'm going to start doing quite a little bit more straight. But again, like this whole thing here is going to probably like get a little bit more smooth at the end. I'm just going to be adding them here, like those smaller ones. And then from time to time, a bigger one is going to peak like that. Kind of like continue a little bit longer. Then I'm going to start actually turning a little bit more diagonal here. Trying to make some variation with the length of them, right? So some of them are going to go a little bit longer. And it's very symmetrical right now, but I can break up the symmetry very soon. Just have to get more stuff done so I can actually save some time like that. Bring this one and then start actually going down here. And at this point, I don't have any form built up, right? It's just a little scratches in there. So it's not like we have a lot going on. So let's go. Actually, those guys here, I'm actually starting to go the opposite way. I believe those ones would come. Yeah, let's just erase those ones here. Just like come like with the same direction. I kind of got a little distracted there. Let's go this way. Try to go down. It's a little bit too even, but like I said, this is like, it's gonna be very, very subtle once I start like smoothing it out. I just need some area of transition between those parts, you know. It's a little bit too symmetrical right now and even. Let's get maybe like start like doing some. Let's look at the round here just to see if we're getting a little bit of that transition. Looks very, very still like very mechanical. We're gonna make it nicer. Just doing a few passes. Yeah, the stroke with the lazy mouse would be very helpful here. I just hope it doesn't mess up with the entire model. It's just like you have more control. It looks like a straighter, you know. It's like you get some nicer lines, especially with the pressure control. And then for the top here, I'm gonna just like bake some of those lines that she has in there. So I'm gonna just like make a few of them. I'm gonna start with this bit longer one that she has in here. Always like breaking it up slightly, right? This one kind of goes across. And then she has some secondary ones. So I was gonna do like this one a little thicker. And then I'm gonna add some secondary ones right here. Very little. Let's see, she has a couple more in here. Then we're gonna build up some forms in here as well. So for now, it's just like drawing in the surface just to mark the positions. I'm gonna just do this one here as well, a little deeper. Yeah, just a little detail like that, because she doesn't have a lot going on here. So I'm just gonna add some of those guys now, just the direction of try to break up. And then when I get closer to the edge here, just gonna add some more of those little guys. And then some of them are gonna continue. Oh, shit. You just should have crossed the model again. I hate that. Let's see. Stroke, turn it off. I hope they fix that soon. Start on my symmetry at this point here so I can actually have some more, at least for those little guys. And then for the bigger ones, I can turn it off. Just do it very fast here. the whole intention is to actually just use an area to blend with the pores themselves. A little bit of a zigzag pattern in there. And then here, gonna just turn off the symmetry, go back and forth. And pick a few of those and just go extend them a little longer. And do a little zigzag as well, like a little wobble, so it doesn't look too straight. So I'm gonna get some of those, gonna bring down. And then I'm just, at this point here, like I said, just like marking some positioning, but without building anything up. That should come next. I mean, like with the neutrally positioned lips, you know, neutrally posed, you would have a lot more stuff going on here. But because they're stretched, I mean, like it's not like I can sculpt a lot of stuff in here and make it look natural, you know. It has to look a little bit stretched and simple. As long as I have the main forms built up, that should work. So around here, let me start blending with the top ones. Instead of like going straight, right? I'm kind of like adding a little bit of an angle in there. Let's see around here. Let's bring some from the inside right here. Smooth it. So I have a little bit more of a intervals in there. And then around here. Get one a little bit bigger around here. And then start extending them a little bit more towards the pores. Just get some of those in here. So now I have some forms I can go with. I can actually start using the clay buildup just to get some of those volumes out. So let's do this. Let's get the clay buildup. I'm gonna switch to alpha 37, maybe 35. 35 is good. And then let's switch to intensity of 2. And then I'm gonna just start building some stuff here. Some volume, but like I said, it's going to be very subtle in my case. It's almost like in your case for a neutrally posed model, we probably can go a little bit deeper, right? Or much deeper than this. But in my case, that's not going to happen. So for those guys here, I'm going to build up like in this direction. So I'm going to get some of the horizontal line. Same for this ones here. To the top. So like basically like in between those lines, I'm just like using the clay buildup with the round alpha. I'm doing it that way. So yeah, it's like it's still a little too simple, right? But it's slowly going to start building up more form here. We need to establish first the pattern we're going to be following, or I can go too crazy with it. The texturing XYZ stuff, it's pretty amazing. Like they have those super detailed dry lips, right? Like you can see, like there's a lot of like baked in detail in there. But it's mostly like for lips that are basically like relaxed at that point. It's not for something like this. For something like this, you have to actually sculpt like by hand. So I'm just gonna do a couple more coming this way, and then from time to time you can start cutting in kind of like a slightly random directions. So first I'm gonna just build some more like parallel like that, because she has some very thin ones. I hope this is actually going to be visible in the renders. That's not something that I'm going too soft with it, but we're going to know once we render. So, and then once there's the lipstick as well and all that stuff, I think it's going to be okay. So when you get a little bit more towards the side, you're going to use the clay build up, but without the wrinkles. So I'm just going to use to build up those forms, make it more organic, but kind of like rolling, almost like in parallel here. So building up some of that, some a little bit thicker. Let's go around these guys here. Go collect the in-betweens and fill them up. I can go a little sharper with my detail, by the way. I can just go switch here. Let's increase the intensity a little bit. And then go a little bit sharper with those guys. Some of them I really want to actually read. There's something a little bit more profound in there, a little deeper. Some of them I'm going to cut across. Because if I don't go deep enough, we might not be able to see too much in the detail with the renders. It has to read like very subtle anyway in the renders, but at least I want to be able to see something. If it's too subtle, it might not show up. I'm gonna go back here later. Just let's take a break of that for a second. Let's just take a look at those. This area here, I don't like what happened in there. It's much more successful in there, so I'm gonna be working on that again. But before we do that, let me just let me pull up the other reference here that she might have, that I can actually see the wrinkles on her chin. It's gonna be hard. Those pictures are not high resolution at all. Yeah, this one, yeah, I can barely see it. But the way I try to approach those little guys is basically like connecting the dots, like I mentioned before a couple of times. So for example, if I have a brush like a intensity of like 12 or something like that, I'm gonna just try to pick a few of them in a certain spot, like for example, right here. Just gonna try to connect some of them. Like so, and then start with another row in there. Those are like marks, you know, like I said, like over time, right? People get those marks in their faces from all the facial expressions. So I'm just gonna be marking those. those memories in there. Alrighty. Maybe a little bit angled too much, so let's just bring some of those here as well. And again, like I'm kind of like idealizing here, right? I'm not like following exactly what I'm seeing there. First, because I can barely see what's in there. But, and also because this is a very artistic approach anyway, right? So we have the freedom to do whatever the hell we want when it comes to those type of things and get away with stuff. So let's go back to this area here. So let's work a little bit more on the nasolabial. So let's see, I'm not symmetrical, no. Okay, so let's do some of that. I'm gonna bring some of those lines a little deeper in here. And again, like always trying to start in the pores and then flare out just to create this structure in there, right? It's and you can cross over as well. You're gonna get some crisscrossing. So let's go deeper here. She has these little pockets. And then starting here, she's just gonna sculpt out like that. All those little details, you know, it's like those things actually pay off once you're rendering those things. Because definitely like the light's gonna hit those areas in a very specific way. And you're gonna get more realistic results. So let's get, I'm not gonna go too crazy without looking at the references. So I'm just gonna add some stuff, just enough. And let's move to the other side and try to do like both. Now, when it comes like to this area here, I see that she has like some micro wrinkles going horizontally under the nose. So we're gonna be doing that as well. But around here, we're gonna start maybe like bringing some from the outside, actually from the inside and then going outside. Always in that spirit of, you know, it's like blending the pores, right? With whatever structure you have in there. I'm gonna do the same here, kind of go a little deeper in those wrinkles and then go really deep around here. And then start flaring out. All of that. Very subtle, cannot go too deep, but I need to add the marks without going too exaggerated. Because, you know, it's like, it's subtle, right? Like kids and young women, very subtle detail, right? And if you have like a base mesh that is not supporting those details, I mean, it's not gonna work, right? You can add any type of beautiful pores you want. If the base mesh is not working, nothing else is gonna work. So at the end, it's gonna, you know, it's like just serve for like beautiful close-up shots, but as a model itself, if the structure is not solid, you're probably not gonna have a successful, you know, it's like a realistic portrait, right? So like you have to put emphasis in the major forms and the secondary forms, right? The difference is here in this class is that we don't do this in a linear way, right? We can keep going back and forth, like I mentioned a couple of times. Like, you know, we're gonna go from tertiary forms back to secondary, and from secondary back to the primary, and then sculpt primary and secondary at the same time. We're gonna sculpt secondary and tertiary at the same time. You know, it's like it's completely free flow. Always looking for the result at the end as the main focus, which is gonna be always a combination of all those efforts together. If you have a nice skin shader, the one I passed to you guys yesterday is a very nice one if you have the right maps plugged. you can get away with a lot, you know. It's like you don't need like beautiful, perfect pores or anything if the skin shader is working good. But obviously, like to make it extra realistic, it would be nice if you can actually nail the structure of the skin, right? Kind of like the pores and the wrinkles and everything. So she has like all those micro little wrinkles going over this area of the philtrum. And in the base here, just gonna get some of those guys. There's a little bit of stretch happening there. And she has some of those little lines much stronger. So in that picture, I can actually see some of them a little stronger than what I have right here. And then those guys are gonna get a little bit more reinforced and blend right there. And then let's go to around here. It's gonna continue having those little lines. As much as possible, you just like can connect some of those pores, right? But if it's not in the path, I mean, it's not like you're gonna be chasing them and creating a completely weird line. You're just gonna use as much as possible with whatever you're seeing. It's kind of like fine detail that's just like, you're only gonna see these things when you have like those super close-ups, right? But even from distance, sometimes you're gonna be able to see some of it. Just make it symmetrical around here. And yeah, because I mean, the light's gonna be breaking up in different spots. And then every time you find a different pattern, you know, it's like almost like your eyes lock and understand that, you know, that's a slightly different type of skin that's happening there. So, you know, you can really get that kind of stuff. So for those wrinkles here, seems like the way that she has in her face, it's, I think I have a little bit of that. It's a very deep one like this, the pocket, and then it ends around here and it becomes softer. So I'm just gonna create that softness by just like mixing some more wrinkles in here like that. And everything now it's symmetrical. So I'm gonna just, yeah, I'm gonna turn off symmetry right now. I'm just gonna blend some of those ones as well. All this stuff is gonna be very subtle in the renders because of the subsurface scattering is gonna be smoothing it out for us, but you know, it's good that we are putting in there. All right. So let's go to the lower lips. Oh, look what I did. I just did a cross in there. So the lower lips here, I can see that when her lips are dry in there, I still can see some wrinkles. Although not a lot, I still can see some of them. So I'm gonna do a couple of them here. I'm gonna start with one around here. And then a couple of smaller ones on the sides. Like that. And I might have to actually turn on my, no, let's keep without that crazy lazy mouse that always fucks up things for us. So let's just keep this one. I'm gonna go very small in detail, right? Like same thing I did for the top, just to mark those areas. Nothing too crazy right now. Some of them a little shorter, some longer, some starting a little bit deeper and then coming back, changing angle from time to time, especially around here. Actually, her lips themselves, they're thinner than this. So basically like the line for the lips is gonna be around here, something like that. So kind of like I'm gonna blend back those areas, gonna add some more pores in there just to get those areas a little bit more combined with the rest. But let me just smooth this one out. Just adding some random ones in here by hand. Let's go around. Oops. Go deeper with this guy here. And I'm gonna go again, like a couple of like small ones, like that. And then a bigger one, maybe ending a little bit earlier. And then I'm gonna go around here, same thing. It's gonna just like bring some of those guys in, like that. And then from time to time, just get some a little bit deeper. It's always like some supporting smaller ones. I'm gonna try to add some of that. So now I have those guys in here. Let's start building up some forms as well. Let's make more natural. So let's go to our clay build up. I'm gonna go like in between right here. And just like add some of that form. Blend a little bit in there. Go with a little bigger version of it without going too crazy with the volumes, just like to have some displacement. And then we're going to reinforce those wrinkles with a bigger brush. Doesn't look like much right now, so hopefully you're gonna make it look nicer. I'm gonna bring it up here just to break the silhouette as well. As you go more towards the front. Let's bring it a little bit more towards the top. If I need to smooth out like all together, I can just go to a lower resolution and just do it. But for now, it should be good. Let's see. So now what I'm going to do with this, I might actually do a few things. For example, like I can grow my brush. So this one here, I can just grow the size of it. And actually the intensity I'm going to keep low. So like 5 or something, maybe 6. I'm just going to make it very big like that. I'm going to run over it. So maybe a little bit less intensity. So 4, a little bigger, run over the same. Just to increase that little depth and help with making it more natural. So from time to time, I can just use one of those without the thin ones in the middle, just like to add some secondary form. Something like that. So let's see if we can get some of the other secondary forms here. Just going to smooth out this slightly. Let's see, go to a resolution level below, or maybe 2, and turn on my smooth. Just go like very low, like 2. Just going to try to smooth out a tiny bit those guys. They're a bit more consistent with it. Yeah, I should do it. Then let's go back, and I might actually smooth out more, but I'm not sure yet. I have a little base in there, but it's very simple at this point. She does have some of those forms, but I don't know exactly how they're going to react with in the context of with the shader and everything. But definitely not finished at this point. We have to do more work. But we can always like move to something else for now, and then come back and revisit those areas at any time. Just gonna add some more wrinkles, a little bigger this time. And then I'm gonna start blending around here. Actually, let's do the blend with symmetry on. Let's get some of those guys here. Smooth it out. Let's see with the little coloring here. Top lip's gonna work. I need a little bit of more love. And obviously, like there's always a ton of room for doing stuff, right? So we just like, it's just a matter of like how far you wanna push it to get it more and more realistic. So basically, like it's it all comes down like to the amount of time you're gonna spend in each one of those steps, right? If I keep doing this for long enough, I should get like more detail obviously built in, and hopefully build a detail that actually reads like natural, right? Instead of something that's completely fake. But it takes time, you know, it's like it's everything that you want to do manually. There's no button to create it for you, right? So that's the downside of it. Yeah, but you know what? At some point when all my classes are all pirated finally on the internet, and I believe they are already, then it's going to be interesting, you know, it's like because we're going to get so many artists becoming amazing, you know, because it's all about pressing buttons. It's amazing, man. It's like I hope you guys appreciate like the hard work that is, you know, to do the, you know, do all the detail by hand and all this stuff, because yeah, there is no shortcut. It's just like either you do it or you don't do it. And if you're gonna do it, then it's gonna take practice, you know. It's like it's not gonna, probably like not gonna get stuff right the first time. I don't get right every time either, but I insist, you know. So basically, like if we insist enough, if you spend enough time fixing the stuff and not being too concerned about like redoing things, right? Then that means you're gonna probably go very far, and you're gonna get a lot of stuff done and learn a lot in the process. But if you basically like abandon the project as soon as you start getting some trouble, then basically like you're not gonna go anywhere. It's all a matter of like the amount of effort you're gonna put towards the class, right? Like towards those exercises that I'm doing. But there are no guarantees that you're gonna be able to learn everything. But the chances are that you're gonna learn a lot or most of it if you put enough time, you know. I've seen like a few pieces actually finished after my class was done. But the ones that actually finished stuff, you know, it's like are the ones putting a ton of time in it. And they're not shy about saying that, you know, because it is true. I mean, like you're gonna have to spend a big chunk of time if you wanna create your model like fully rendered and fully detailed. And I'm almost completely sure it's not going to happen during the course of the class. For example, like my students, like from May and in June, are finally finishing their stuff, you know. So it takes some time because like it's trial and error. But the good thing is that all this stuff is recorded. You guys can always refer to it. And then as, you know, it's like you just go and watch it again. And there's an amazing artist who was in my first class was Ran, and he was actually rewatching those videos like every day, kind of like, and then doing all the tutorials or mini tutorials, following exactly what I was doing, and he got pretty far with his model. But I think like because he's so good, he's kind of like me, you know. It's like he starts getting distracted with his own models, and then you know it's like that's what I do as well. I get like too much obsessed with one model for a while, and then I have to shift to something else, distract my head. And he's a little bit like that too. But I'm pretty sure if he puts his efforts to finish that model, it's going to look really awesome. So here it's kind of like missing a little bit of the pores in there. I can actually add some of them just to help with the blend. So let's try that. Let's get my single pour, and then let's see, intensity maybe like 32, 31, something like that. And then just around here, I'm just gonna reinforce some of those guys, but not by much. I mean, I don't need like super deep pores in there. Such a delicate area. Just gonna add some to help with the transition. Around there. And then we're gonna need like obviously like pimples everywhere, right? Hopefully not too many to the point that my wife's gonna fight with me. But a few of them just to add a little bit more of a naturalistic look. Some of them like that. So the top lip is more successful, I think. Kind of like a little bit on the dry side, but it's because we don't have any specular or anything helping it. But once we have those, it should be better. So, and they're very, you know, it's like still straight. So I'm gonna bring some of them, oops, not a pour. I'm gonna bring some of them a little bit more diagonal. So it's just gonna get like this. Some more diagonal ones. Starting to look a little bit more natural, but still, again, you know, it's like it's how much time I'm going to be spending on it, right? And all those, you saw like the way I work in those models. It's not a linear thing, right? I visit one area and I give some love, and then I spend a good chunk of time, you know, it's like a half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to move on to some other area that needs some love. And then eventually I just revisit this area. And I get like things increasingly better if I'm lucky, right? Like hopefully I'm not gonna mess up. But the intention is to always like improve things and keep moving forward. So right now, from a distance, it's gonna work just the same, but then from close up, you're gonna be able to see those guys. And with the subsurface scattering, you might be able to see like very, very little of that detail. So just gonna add some more clay buildup here. So I'm gonna just go to a couple of resolutions lower than that. I'm gonna build up some little bumps, just like little ones. You know, it's like we all have like different little imperfections in our skin. She actually has a birthmark around here. Let's see if I can get in the correct spot. And I'm gonna have to paint it as well. So around here, so it's not in the middle, it's around there. I'm gonna build up a little birthmark. So to charm a little Marilyn Monroe kind of thing right there. And then let's keep building some more forming here with the clay buildup. And eventually like little imperfections here and there, just like in a lower resolution. Get some of those ones and lift some of those little pillows right in between those little cross sections. Just build them up. And then the neighbors as well. It's always tricky, right? Like when you're sculpting like fine detail like that, because you kind of like get too fixed into detailing it without looking at the big picture, you know? And then sometimes you look at the big picture, it's like, oh, I went too far. It's good to check like from time to time, you know, it's like do a little bit of work and go from a distance, look from different angles, right? Flip it around. It's always good to check your model to see if things are working. It's sometimes we get confused that we are using a tablet and we think that you're doing like a 2D model, right? Just like you're just drawing. You kind of like forget to orbit around. But it's important to check things from all angles. Otherwise, you get those very common models you see online. You know, it's like they're really good from the, you know, it's like from one angle, and then you turn it around, and it's like it kind of falls apart because the structure is not there. So that's why you have to double check those structures at all times. It can be like the primary forms, secondary and tertiary, right? They have to work from different angles. It's actually a sculpture. It's digital, but it's a 3D representation. So you have to be able to see them. So let's go back to the highest resolution. Let's see how that's working. And I'm going to smooth out those pillows here. They're a little bit too big. Like they're too much. Let's get like a lower resolution. I'm just gonna turn on my symmetry. I'm gonna smooth them out. The one I think they're showing up too much, too irregular. So I'm at my lowest resolution here, just smoothing it out. And hopefully, if I go back up, you'll be able to see them a little bit shallower now. Then I can smooth them out again. Yeah, so that looks nicer. And I think I'm gonna keep them the way they are. I'm not gonna smooth out that much, maybe a little bit. Just enough, subtle. And then let's move to an area like this one here. Let's do some more work in there. And then right after this, if we have enough information here, we're gonna be actually moving to Maya and then importing this and doing some render tests again. So, but first I have to build some of this stuff. Let's see, I have symmetry on. Yep, so just for here, I don't think symmetry is gonna be, you know, it's gonna affect that much, right? Because it's just like the secondary little forms. And like I said, it's all a matter of like planning your work. So you don't need to do the job twice, right? Especially you're talking about like this many details, you know, you have to work smart, otherwise you're gonna go insane. It's already insane the way it is, just working symmetrically. Imagine like doing everything asymmetrically and pore by pore, right? It's a little bit more insane than already is. So those guys are not blending very well around here. So I'm gonna just smooth them out. And then eventually I can actually use those little lines from that brush that I normally use for the micro detail. So let's see if it's here. I always lose my stuff because I have all those things now. So pores, random, this one. So this is that one that I apply like in circular motions like that, right? So I can actually use it with some directionality just to blend some of that stuff. So from here, it's gonna get a little bit bigger than that. If I'm going too crazy here, I can always smooth out in those areas and keep a little bit more soft around the lips themselves, but let them get a little bit crispier towards this area of transition. It's too much. It gets a little tricky sometimes. Another thing we're going to be doing, we're going to be adding some directionality to this area here, because if you look at some references, there's a lot going on when it comes like to the skin direction. Just going to blend some of those and then come with the smooth brush, eliminate some of them from the top. And then let's play with this, with the direction of this whole area here. So let's look at the reference first. Let's try, I think I had, let's see, Katrina. Let's see if it's a good one. No, that's the old lady. Let's get Carla. Yeah, Carla has a softer skin. So let's try with her. Let's see what's the type of detail we can see in there. So let's zoom in. Too much. And let's look around here. So you see like there's this micro wrinkles going this way. So basically like some of them are gonna come following the contour of the face. You're not gonna see that much in here, but some are coming, yeah, right here, like micro ones going this way. So like more horizontal, and a lot of them just going very vertical and flaring out right there. So we're gonna start introducing some of that by using that little brush that I was just using now. So we're gonna start flaring out, starting from the middle here. So we're gonna start with, let's try like this. And I'm gonna actually override those pores. So it doesn't matter if it's gonna mix with them. Just gonna bring, following that same direction. Like flaring from the middle and then around the face, following the contour, like kind of like always pointing towards the silhouette. And you can do multiple passes, right? You can bring them like that. And then I'm gonna start stretching around here. And then all the way around. Get that nice stretchy detail in there. Obviously, I'm using just like ZBrush default brushes here. If you have the time, I mean, like to really observe those things and try to reproduce what you're seeing, see if there's a gap in there in the pores, then you should be able to do a better job than this, you know. But like I said, sometimes it's a little overkill, you know. If you render this and it looks good, there's not a lot of reasons to, you know, to overdo it. But if you want to do more precisely, obviously, like you have to actually take a look at the reference and try to reproduce it, you know, by creating your own brushes and just trying to create that effect. But just by adding this little micro detail here, just to break up the pores, it's almost like you add a little extra layer of complexity to the whole thing, right? And then that's gonna start working nicer. You guys have any questions? We are kind of like closing 1 hour now, so it's a good time to ask questions. So thanks for letting me work nonstop here. So I got a lot of stuff done.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Actually, I have a question about the pores. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking at some reference, and
Yeah.
I noticed like the guys, most of them like have pores only on the cheeks. So
Uh-huh.
I was wondering how to approach that. Do I have like to do like you do here, like apply the pores on all the face and then smooth it out, or just put it on the
Uh,
cheek?
yeah, for example, like in the case of Ray Harryhausen, I was still kind of
Hmm.
like adding all the pores first and then just smoothing out as I went. But I mean, like if you feel like you don't see the pores at all in the specific reference you have, there's no reason to sculpt them. I mean, like you could maybe like do like a very shallow version of them instead of like using an intensity that's, let's say, like if those ones are 100%, right? Maybe you can do a 30% of that and just use to break up the surface a little bit. But if you don't see them at all, you might be able to get away with this type of texturing I'm just doing now.
Ah, okay.
You know, it's like a
Thanks.
micro, kind of like micro.
Micro
Yeah,
wrinkle.
yeah, exactly. Something that just to look like sort of stretched, right? That's basically what I
Yeah.
did with Ray. It's yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna actually add a little bit more intensity, just to another quick pass on top of that. So now I have like this direction coming from the middle area here, right? I can, and now I can actually go from the other direction. So I'm gonna start actually following the contour of the face. So I'm just gonna go here. I'm gonna bring some of them starting from the side right here. And it's gonna create kind of like a cross-hatching kind of effect right here as they cross like in the opposite directions. And that adds some complexity as well. It's almost like in this area here, I'm probably not gonna need a lot of micro breakup from the micro bump because we're already gonna get a lot of it. But it's always nice, you know, to break things up so it doesn't look like those pores are completely clean. More complexity you can add, you know, it's like the more natural things might look. If you're doing, of course, like the right passes on top of each other, you cannot be too random, you know. But random enough. I mean, like randomness is good, but not too random. So it's like it's a randomness with a little bit of control. So now I have like this entire area covered with this little micro detail, and it should read a little bit less deep, right? Those pores are gonna read a little bit less deep because of, you know, it's like this kind of brushing here is not like the elastic brush, right? This one here actually overrides whatever is underneath. So eventually, like some of the pore is going to start getting eliminated. If I keep doing like the same detailing over and over on top of the same spot, the pore is kind of going to go away. So at this point here, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm just like blending the pores with the micro wrinkles. But eventually, if you don't want to do that, you have to be careful so you don't completely eliminate the pores, you know. I'm gonna do a little bit of that here. Actually, what I'm gonna do in this area, I'm gonna do that little effect. I'm gonna show you like with a big brush, with a strong brush, so you can see what I'm gonna be doing. This kind of detail, right? But I'm gonna do like with a very small intensity, and then with smaller brush as well. I'm gonna just try to break up this entire thing because this looks a little bit too smooth to my taste. So see, like right here. It's going to add a little bit more complexity. At the same time, it blends with the pores themselves, right? So it doesn't look like a leather kind of super clean. It's going to get an extra layer of micro detail in there. And then obviously, like with the micro bump, we're going to get even further with the craziness. But since we have those ones in here, we're going to have to look at the renders and see, okay, so is it helping or not helping to add more to this mess, right? So if it's not helping, then you can just completely eliminate from your map because you're going to be painting a map tomorrow to control the height of the bump. So tomorrow, basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to be painting all maps, but the color map. So all the other maps are going to be painted tomorrow. By painting, I mean like I'm going to be showing what I have painted already, and then I'm going to be basically like redoing some areas so you can see how I recreate the effect. But I'm not going to do it from scratch at all because that would be a waste of time for myself. But obviously for you guys, you need to see how it's done. So that's why I'm going to demonstrate, but without doing everything from scratch. And that's what I encourage you guys to do as well. You know, it's like once you have a model, for example, you have a decent topology and you have a model that actually is working fine for you guys, to be able to reuse stuff, you know. So if the topology is shared across models, then you can start like having a little library, you know, it's like, and then kind of like having things shared between them. Even if you're gonna do, for example, the pores by hand and from scratch every time, that's basically what I try to do. Try not to reuse too much stuff. But if I can reuse, I mean, like I try, you know, like especially for those older guys, try to capture some of the stuff so it's less work that I have to do. But if it's too much, you know, it's like you basically like you just reuse stuff. For example, like the specular map and the bump height map, it's got to common across all those models, you know. I might have to tweak from time to time because of if the skin is a little bit more oily in a certain character. So obviously I'm gonna have to, you know, to crank the specular a little bit more. But other than that, so you see like I'm adding a little bit of this micro wrinkles going this direction here. So like going direction of the muzzle, but without overpowering too much the pores themselves, right? So when I get around this area here, I'm gonna turn off my symmetry and I'm just gonna try to bring towards the center and then out. So a very thin layer of stuff that was added in there, right? So it's already a little bit more complex than it was before. Now, let's see if I can find anything in her skin in there, which is it's pretty clean. I mean, like I don't see a lot of bumps and bruises, but let's try to actually use the clay build-up. Just build some of them, like small ones, very tiny ones, just to break up the. And then again, like since I'm going to sculpt a pimple that's actually popping out of the skin, right? Like it's almost like I don't need to worry about you know, it's like erasing what's underneath. I want to actually erase because if there's a pimple, it's because it's like popping out, right? And then in that case, I want to eliminate whatever detail is underneath. So I'm just going to add some of those little guys in random areas like that. I'm going to go around here. Let's see if I can find a little spot where I can add a few of them, but very little because I'm just making it up at this point because I don't see them at all in her skin. And I don't want my wife to get mad at me because, you know, it's like, oh, I don't have those bumps. What you doing? I was like, well, I'm just using for the class, so I have to create some. That's my excuse. Play with fire, like people say. Playing like fire with fire, man. Being too dangerous now, sculpting my wife. And then for the nose, I actually noticed that she has some little blackheads and some pimples. So like a little bit of a bigger pimple right here. The pimple is almost like it's some stuff is just like birthmarks, almost, you know. You get them and you always have them. My son is like 9 and he has some of those bumps that never go away. It's almost like little birthmarks baked in there. And once you have like from both sides, I have some of those little guys as well. And my wife has, so but my kids, obviously they have stuff in their skin. So like at this point here, I'm sculpting, I'm not at the highest resolution. I'm kind of like at 13 million polygons. It's faster for me to sculpt, especially if it's not super fine stuff. And if it is fine like this, at least when I go to the highest resolution, actually this one, yeah, this one is the highest resolution because I have a smaller chunk. I thought I didn't, but yeah, sometimes what I do, I go to one subdivision level less if I don't want those things to look too sharp. And then I sculpt on that resolution. Then when I go up, they look slightly more subtle, you know. In this case here, seems like I kept it strong. Just gonna reinforce some of those little wrinkles here as well. And from time to time, if you're doing a lot of those, sometimes from time to time, it's good to just pick one row and actually just go stronger with it. So kind of like, it's almost like this is the main wrinkle, and the other ones are just like a compression, right? It's like an accordion kind of effect. And then so you're gonna see one of them, same with the lips, right? Like all this stuff I just did in there. Some of them are gonna be like the main detail, and some of them are gonna be the secondary stuff. Actually here, I don't see it. That's the funny part. Like I normally sculpt like some horizontal like this. I don't see them in her face, in her lips. I only see vertical ones. So that's gonna be tricky because I really want to add more complexity, but it looks quite simple in there. So let's try this. And so let's see around this area here. Another thing that you have to understand is that you see, like I had the pores before, so now I added this micro wrinkles on top of it, right? But then you have to understand that we're gonna have a whole layer of peach fuzz going over it. And the peach fuzz can actually disguise a lot of stuff, you know? It's like, it's gonna be like this very, kind of like yellowish, very blonde, kind of like micro hair everywhere. And that's gonna help to smooth out the whole thing even further. So we have to be careful with what we do here. We don't, you know, it's like don't, oh, let's see, this guy is too much. Yeah, to make sure that, for example, like if I remove too much stuff, then for example, with those little guys, we're gonna get even more removed, right? Like more and more stuff removed with the peach fuzz, or vellus, like they say. Vellus hair.
Chris,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. How would you accommodate pores that are in place and you want to stretch them?
Oh, to stretch them. That's
Yeah.
that's a good question. I mean, like there are a couple of techniques you can use, like with certain brushes in here, but they might affect actually the actual mesh underneath. For example, like let's see if we do a quick test here with a nudge brush. Let's see if it's going to destroy things too much. I would say, like, if you are planning to do a facial expression, either you do this kind of stuff to add some more directionality there, it sculpt some of the brushes to have more of that direction, or you can create like a stretched brush and then use that one. So let's see how the nudge works for those areas here. Let's see, if I do something like this, I don't know exactly how much it's gonna affect my model underneath. Yeah, for example, like if I do it, I'm gonna have to be careful bringing things like all together. And let's see. So for example, here, let's just bring some of them towards the side. Is it symmetrical? No. Yeah, you can try to do it with the nudge, you know, but it's not guaranteed that it's gonna calculate the displacement correctly. I'm guessing it's gonna do a good job as long as you don't go too much with it, like don't force it too much. So you can add subdirection with that, you know, but I would say like a better idea would be to actually plan your brushes and alphas a little bit better if you're creating this effect. Or you can do like I do here, for example, if I have to create the effect of stretch here, I'm gonna go, for example, pick one of those little guys and just like, oh, not this one, I have add. So I'm gonna go and sculpt on top of it. For example, some of them to create this effect that like they're stretching, you know, so kind of like go with a little line and just go back and forth a few times. And you can create that effect that things are a little bit more stretched now. But yeah, you can try both, you know, try with the nudge. If it's messing up your surface too much, then either you create like a brush that's already stretched, or you can try like cheating like this kind of stuff I'm doing right now, just like adding some direction like that. When I was sculpting King Kong for the Skull Island, I actually did some of that, you know, it's like in the sculpt. So you're gonna see some of the pores I sculpted. Actually, there's even a making of, I think, like on YouTube that shows me doing that. Kind of like just like sculpting stretched pores straight away into the mesh like that. So kind of like select one pore and just like go back and forth and then create a little line on top of them. So I get this little, you know, effect that's kind of like stretching, but yeah, things you can try, you know.
Thank you.
No problem. So right there, let's see. I think like I can just reinforce pick one of those guys and just do a little bit stronger. And then let's move on and export this stuff to Maya while we wait. And then we can go from there, because I want to see how those forms are actually showing up. If they need to be a little deeper, now is the time to actually see the result, right? So that's why, again, like I encourage you guys to create a base scene for everything and then just iterate on it, you know, because that way you have a precise idea of what's needed for your model to get there, you know, it's like to that level you want. So instead of like relying on just like ZBrush viewport and trusting that everything is going to work out, just instead of that, just use like a simulation of a physical object. It's always better, right? So if you have a practical model, like a sculpture, it's the easiest thing, right? Because you don't need to set up a scene with the perfect lighting or anything. It's just like, it's the real deal. It's there, so you can actually see the forms exactly how they are in real life. But with computer graphics, you have to simulate those physical objects in order to do anything. So that's why we go like from the get-go and then try to get those things to look nice, you know, like with a nice lighting, HDRI, if possible. And maybe some other additional area lights in there to help out. And then if you do that, then you're set, because you can actually see a model as a physical thing. So I think it's okay for now, what we have done. There's a lot of like little bumps and bruises are going to be adding, but I mean, by a lot, I'm going to say like it's a lot in quantity, but not like the intensity, right? They're going to be very subtle. I started to add some of that randomness around the cheeks here, as you can tell. I used actually a brush that I have here. Let me see if I can find it, because I saved, and I always forget those names I put in them. They're supposed to make sense, but they never do. So let's see, like this guy here. So I named it intro or whatever. So this one, actually, this one is the depth. There's another one I saved. Let's see, pore standard, bumps elastic. Okay, this one should be it, I think. So those guys here, for example, started with the elastic brush, the one that doesn't destroy the forms on top, right? I did a based like I can actually use this flow here at 0. And then for the placement 0, scale, color. Color is not going to be important because I'm just sculpting anyway. And then I'm using an alpha, probably like the 37 or 35, one of those two. And I spray. So if I do around the lips in here, the very strong intensity, you're going to see this. Look. And this is non-destructive, right? Because it's just like using the elastic brush, right? So if I do very slowly, you're gonna get this type of effect, right? It looks like a little herpes in there. But if you do very fast, you get like much more spread out, right? And if you do very fast with this smaller one, you can get this kind of effect. Then sometimes like you wanna get like a cluster of pimples or something like that. I can do it right here, very fast, look. You can barely see what I'm doing, but it's actually adding to that area. I'm gonna do the same with the chin. So around here, add a couple of random pimples. So again, if I do around the lips so you can see it, I'm doing this. That's basically what's adding. And it's actually not very visible because it's preserving the detail because it's the elastic brush, right? So you're just gonna do this. And then add some more here. Very fast motion with my tablet. Same here. Cannot go too crazy. Obviously, I don't want her to look too bumpy. So, but a few things like that, you know, one here and there. So, so now that we have this, let's get out of HD. I'm going to do a little test with this thing. And then I'm going to be talking a little bit further about the other maps tomorrow, right? Like I said, so we're going to be exploring, for example, the specular map that I use, and then this guy here, which is the bump height map that I use as well. So you can see if I turn flat color, you see like just black and white map, right? So whatever is black is going to be shinier, right? Like less intensity. And then whatever is white is actually where the bump's going to be higher. So I'm going to be doing that. And let's see, at one point, the colors are a little funky in there for some reason. It's only when I rest my mouse, it actually goes funky. For some reason, I don't know. But this map here is the same map I'm using for the other characters, so I might be able to just like reuse it all together. But just in case I'm going to export it now, let's export this map here, so we can actually play with the bump height. And I can explain exactly how it works tomorrow. But basically like the idea here is that you're going to use like black, where you want less bump, like the micro bump to show up. So for example, the lips, I don't want to get all bumpy, right? Because this is shinier. Same for the eyelids, like around the very close to the eye. And then the nose, because I want a little bit shinier. So I want to rely more on the displacement than the micro bump itself. And then the cheeks as well, right? Have a little bit more shininess in there. So not a lot of micro bump. But then when you get to those areas here, the widest ones, so then you're going to get more breakup, right? You want the ears to look less shiny around those areas and a little bit more shiny inside. That's why I have those colors in there. So I'm going to start by actually renaming this subtool. So I'm going to rename it to chess bump height. I'm going to just, yeah, just like that. And then make sure I have my RGB all the way to 100. And before you export anything using the multi-map exporter, take note of this. Always save your file. Okay, before you mess up with multi-map exporter, because it's buggy and it should not be trusted, right? I would say like 97% of the time it works perfectly, right? But there's this 3%, which is like, I'm using 3% because I had the same problem after using like for 3 months straight. I had this problem twice already. But so it's not super common, but it happens, right? What happens is that like during the export, ZBrush corrupts the scene for whatever reason. I tend to believe that everything is related to memory with ZBrush. And so it corrupts the scene. And the way you can tell that the scene is corrupted is that it starts exporting some maps like blank maps. And then when you look at the name of your subtool, instead of like having the original name like this one, it doesn't revert back to the original name. It renames to output, like output 0, output 1, something like that. And that means that your scene is corrupted at that point. If you save your scene at that point, all kinds of crazy stuff can happen. If you save your scene on top of the previous one and you have something named output here done by the multi-map exporter, that means that sometimes your HD geometry is going to be gone forever, right? So don't save on top of old files. Always save it like with a new name, and always save right before exporting things, you know, from multi-map exporter. So that's the tip in there. So multi-map exporter, I have RGB set to 100, and this should export very fast. So texture from Polypaint, I don't need to go 8K with those textures because it's just like very simple texture for the height of the bump. I don't need to use switch morph target, but there is fine. And then that's all I need. So 496, and then I'm gonna create all maps. Let's go to Jessica source images, and then I'm gonna create the maps in here. And you're gonna see the resolution I have here for the mesh itself. It's about 4.4 million polygons for the highest level. So I'm not gonna go HD for every single one of those subtools, right? I'm gonna keep it pretty conservative, right? So basically, like I just duplicate the original mesh a couple of times, so I have like 3 copies of it. But instead of going HD in every single one of them, I'm just like subdividing a couple of times until I get like 4 million polygons. In your case, depending on the topology, you know, anything like between like maybe 3 and 6 million polygons should be fine. If it's just for exporting color, you know, because it goes super fast, it probably like 30 seconds, 46 seconds to export all of them, right? So I have the bump height in there. And then we're gonna be doing more work with the other stuff later, but I'm just gonna use this bump height right now. So for the color map, I have this old map that I just like smoothed it out and just painted some lipstick and some fake eyebrows in there. So that's the color map I have. I can actually use it just to do the quick render test in there, but I might not. So that's what I have. Let's go export the heavy maps, right? The displacement and just the displacement map. So let's go to the subdivision level 2, right? This one. I'm gonna export it. And this is gonna be my medium resolution. So I'm gonna go iteration number 20, MR. And I'm gonna go to the lowest res, and this is gonna be iteration LR, so low resolution, medium resolution. So there you go. The scene is saved, so I don't need to worry about it. Let's go to my morph target and do that whole thing again. Delete any morph target you had, so store, switch, import, LR. That's it. So let's go to the displacement settings and export just the displacement. The color is already exported, so I'm gonna go back to 8K. The displacement is important, that's 8K. And I have here subdivision level 2, because remember, like I wanna export the medium resolution to Maya and then just generate the displacement. That's the difference between that level and the highest level. So that's what I'm gonna have to do. If in your case, you're gonna be exporting to Maya a subdivision level 3, make sure that you match that subdivision level here as well before you export your maps. So we're gonna do this, let's see, everything else is correct. Yes. So let's see, source images, and that's gonna be LR20. So I'm in my 4th iteration so far. So let's go do this. And let's switch back to Maya and start playing with importing that new base mesh that I just sculpted. At all times, right? Like you have to export the base mesh to match the displacement stuff. So sometimes it's very subtle difference, but still there's difference. So I'm gonna be importing the medium resolution one to match this resolution, 69,304 polygons. So I'm gonna just do import. Don't need to do this anymore, right? But you did before. So single object, make sure it's on. Import it. Go to your OBJ folder. And then I'm gonna grab the LR, so the low resolution, actually not the low resolution, this one's just for exporting the displacement. The medium resolution, 7.5 megabytes in my case. And then if I look at the resolution of this guy, it has 69.304 against 69.304. So that's the one I need. So I'm gonna click the new one. So the new one I just imported, I'm gonna click the old one. And then there are a couple of ways you can transfer the information from one to another one to make sure that it's a match, right? Because let's say you made some big changes, like the ears are completely different now. You want to make sure that you update your model correctly. In the past, I would use this one here a lot, which was the transfer attributes. So the transfer attributes, if you didn't do any changes, if you didn't change anything with the UVs, you can simply use this, like vertex position that you keep on, turn the other stuff off. Then you click UV, and then you just say apply. And then if the UV never changed, you should have like a very fast transfer, right? Now, if the UVs are or slightly different, for example, like if you smooth it out or something, or ZBrush did something funky with the UVs that looks a little bit more smooth than before, then you can do by topology. So if you do by topology, it's gonna take longer. So instead of like, let's say 10 seconds to do it, or 5 seconds to do it, it's gonna take probably like 40 or 50 seconds to do it with the topology, depending on the resolution, obviously. But still, it's gonna do it, right? The topology is the most precise one you can do. But the fastest one of all of them is using the morph target, as long as you don't change the topology, right? So click the new one again, Control, click the old one, and then you can go to this tab here that says Animation. And you can just say Deform, Blend Shape, and then you're gonna click this little box just to check if things are correct. You don't need this check topology thing here, right? All you need is to just give a name. So for example, if I do like AAA, like that, you see like that my model selected, now I have just those 3 tabs, poly surface shape, and just skin. So I'm just gonna click apply. And now you got this other tab here that says AAA, the name I gave, right? So I can just like pull this one, and then you're gonna see the model conforming to the new one, the old model conforming to the new one. So I keep at 1, and make sure you delete your history. So when you delete the history for entire scene, sometimes when you're using XGen, it might get lost, like a lot of information gets disconnected, some of the nodes. So make sure you delete the information just for the model itself. So you see like I have all those little tabs here now, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tabs. I'm gonna just go to edit and then delete by type. And I'm gonna click history. Instead of like delete all by type history, I'm gonna go just delete by type history. And now that those 6 tabs became like 3 tabs again. So that means that eliminated the morph target and everything. If you don't do that, what happens is that when you delete the model you just brought in, just to do the blend shape, the history is gonna be still baked with it. So basically like if you delete it, it goes away. So the changes you made go away. So you have to make sure you freeze them before doing that. So now the model is adapted to be conform to actually to the latest forms I have from ZBrush, right? And then because I just use a morph target, I didn't bring a new model itself. It's just like basically like conform the old model to the new one. Now I don't need to worry about like setting things up again, right? So for example, if I did like bring a brand new model, I would have to set up all this stuff. I still have my shared SSS in there. Subdivision is all set up to go. So that's like the fastest way to just like update your scene, right? That's what I do every time I bring stuff from ZBrush. Still exporting, so let's go back to Maya here. Let's see what we can do just to speed things up. Let's plug that map, the bump height, and let's do a test here first. So let's click this hypershade. And you see I have my Jazz skin. That's basically like this one here. Let's see, before we do anything else, let's just delete everything that's unused. So delete unused stuff. So delete a bunch of things. I don't know why I have a Just skin here. Let's see which one that is. So let's see this one. Let's see which one is hers. Graph materials. So this is like with the lower caps. This is like higher caps. So let's see what this one is. It has stuff plugged in here, but it's not what I'm looking for. Yeah, that's an old node. I'm gonna delete that before I get confused. I hope I don't delete anything that's important. So let's do something here. Let's create a shader that's just like a very simple shader. And we're gonna turn off the displacement as well. So let's get like a Arnold shader. Just create another one, a standard. And we're gonna call this one test. So like a gray test. And we're gonna just like remove a lot of the, actually the specular are gonna keep the way it is for now, and just reduce the color to something more gray like this. And then let's just make sure that the displacement is not connected. I don't want any displacement. So I don't have anything connected in there. So I'm gonna just click this one and I'm gonna assign this gray test. And I'm gonna bring a couple of things to plug into it as well. So remember that we plugged into the normal camera, which was the bump map. We plugged this node that was the bump with the cell noise plugged to it, right? So it's all plugged into the old file. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just duplicate this one, and I'm gonna plug into another one as well. So from here, I'm gonna plug into the normal camera here. So now it's connected to both shaders. So the bump is actually connected to both. So if I do a render here, let's see how it renders with the micro bump the way it is. Let's see, render. Let's get this a little smaller. Actually, I did some render yesterday to post. That was a little bit big. So just gonna reduce the size again to like 900. And 8, gonna bring back to 7. And so it's a little faster to render. So let's do this. Take a little bit to load because it's still subdividing the mesh. I can actually turn off the subdivisions just in case. So I can actually get things a little faster. Yeah, let's do that. Let's stop it and just select the mesh and then go to, still thinking about it. Let's see. Okay, let's go back here, and then Catmull Clark, you're gonna just put none in here, so it's not subdividing anymore. Let's try to render, it's gonna go faster. I just wanna see the actual micro bump, because we wanna actually use the bump height now to calculate things. So we wanna make sure that it's doing a good job with, it's actually working in there. So let's just select like a small area like this. That's the cheeks and the nose. So you see like there's the micro bump happening there. It's very, very small. What I can do actually, see like around the nose here, you can actually see it very well. What I can do, I can actually bring closer to the lips, because you want to make sure that it's working, because the lips, we're going to need to eliminate some of this bump height, right? So to be able to really see it, what we can do, we can go to our geometry tab, go to the cell noise, click this one, and then go back. And now we can actually crank the bump depth, right? So we can actually see what's going on in there. So if I do it very high like that, so I have like the same bump happening everywhere, right? Another thing we can do to speed things up, let's just eliminate teeth, tongue, teeth, so even faster. So now that we have that, and we can tell that's very bumpy, let's plug that map that we just exported. So the way I plug it, it's right here. So if you go to your, to your cell where you have like your bump map, so like under geometry, click the little arrow. Let's cancel it for a second. And then click this one to go back, right? So we have like this node. Under this one where it says like bump depth, we're gonna be plugging those maps. So we're gonna click on it, select file, turn off any filtering, go down to Arnold, turn off textures, TX textures, in my case, and I'm gonna turn on the UDIM, so it kind of like finds all the tiles for you automatically, and I'm gonna go here and sample, get the file, the bump height files, right? Those ones you just exported. So right there. So we're gonna bring it here. And at first, you're probably not gonna see a lot of result happening straight away. So let's try to just render to see what we get. You see like it's still very bumpy. So you can see like there is bump right there at the lower lip and the top lip as well. So what happens is that when I painted my map, if you noticed, now I have the displacement exported too, it's good. So if you notice my map, the way that's painted is very, very subtle. So for example, like it's very, very, it's like dark overall, right? So there's no white in here. It's just like starts like with dark gray and goes all the way to black, right? So I'm not seeing that. So that means that's not eliminating those areas here, because it's still very, very subtle. So sometimes you have to, if you do something like that, you have to crank your exposure. So for example, from 0 here, let's start playing with that value. I'm gonna be cranking it just to bring it up. I'm gonna try to lift it. Let's see, 10. Oops. Is it? It was supposed to be. Let's see. Why is it not doing it? Oh, alpha. Sorry, alpha is luminous. You have to use alpha as luminous. So in this case here, now I can start actually seeing what's going to happen. So around here, see like at 0, at 1, actually 0, I cannot see any difference, right? It's eliminating the detail completely. But as I start increasing this, you're going to start seeing the detail popping around it, right? So you're going to have to find the sweet spot where you can actually see the detail around it, but nothing in the lips, because I painted the lips out, right? So let's see how deep the detail is in here now. Seems like it's actually invading a little bit of the lips in here. It's actually making bumpy too far into the lips. So I'm going to have to paint out that area. So that means I'm going to be painting a little bit darker in there just to eliminate it completely. But this is the correct behavior I'm expecting, actually. You know, it's like the bump starts happening around the lips, but not on the lips themselves. So let's see how he solves the puzzle here. And we're gonna move to another area, probably like the nose. And then once we have that figured out, we can just plug in our displacement map and see how everything plays together. And then since we are here, we can actually even, you know, it's like a plug that temporary color map just to see how things are working. So you see around there, you can start seeing the bumps, but the lips are still very clean. And that's what we need. So around here, you see like it's quite bumpy. So maybe the intensity is a little bit too much. So I'm gonna bring it down slightly. So I'm gonna keep it maybe like at 1.5 here. And let's see an area like, for example, around the cheeks and nose is always a good one to check. I check like contrast, right? Like between an area that's supposed to be very smooth, in the case of the nose, and then an area like that you can actually see the little bumps happening. So that looks like a good intensity, you know? I think I'm gonna get, I might crank it up a little bit, but overall it seems like it's good. I can see the bumps in there, but not there. So that's good. So let's cancel it. And let's go back to my shader network. And now I remember that I was actually sharing that bump node with the gray test shader. So that means that I don't need to worry about it. I can just like switch back to my subsurface skin shader, and then it should be adjusted already because that's the node I was just adjusting, right? So I'm gonna just click on, right click, and then assign material to viewport. So that's assigned now. And now let's bring the new displacement we just exported. So click the mesh itself, go to the shader network. You can actually click back once, and then you should see like this node that's displacement material. Expand it, go up, and then let's pick up the new one that's 20. Open, make sure it's raw, and that's UDIM is on, right? So that's a new map is already there. And now the last thing is like go back to the attributes of the object, so the second tab, and then make sure you turn back on the Catmull-Clark with the subdivision, right? Also, because we are here and we already know this is gonna work fine with the map, let's plug that color map that's temporary. Instead of having this weird color in there, just gonna plug the color map. What I'm gonna be doing here now, you don't need to worry about just now because you're gonna be talking about the albedo color when we finally bring it in, like the one I'm gonna paint like next week. But this is gonna be a little bit different here. Instead of like plugging the map straight away, so I'm gonna click this little thing. You can pay attention to this because we're gonna be repeating again. So I'm gonna click the little checker, and instead of like plugging a file, I'm gonna go to Maya, and then I'm gonna get under, I believe like under utilities. So we have one node in here. Let's see, remap color. So I'm gonna click this one instead, right? And then I have this node in here that has all those controls for red, green, and blue. I like actually playing with the color map inside of ZBrush, inside of Maya, and I'm gonna explain the reason very soon. So first I'm gonna get the map and I'm gonna plug it now here. And then I'm gonna show you the shader network to show what's going on in there. So I'm gonna get the file, and now I can actually add the file in here. So I'm gonna do that same thing I always do, textures off, turn off the filter, make sure you have Mari, UDIM, and then I'm gonna get the color map, which is albedo that I have saved in here. So like that's the temporary one, right? It's a very simple map. So I'm gonna open it. Now it's plugged. So if you look at the hypershade to see what happening here. So let's expand this one. Go to window, and actually graph input and output. And now you see like instead of like plugging the albedo color straight to the subsurface color, it's plugged into the remap color, and then from the remap color it exports back in there. So let's do a test here so you can see what's gonna happen with that thing that I just did. So let's hope that it's gonna render with the displacement now. One area you can test is actually the lips. So you're gonna be going down very soon, but I need to wait until it calculates the initial render first. And then we can play with the color. So while I'm waiting here, so the reason why I added this remap color in here, it's because of this. So try to get the concept here. For example, if I'm looking at the image like this, right? And this is like kind of like a daylight kind of lighting that's happening here. So it's not like a studio lighting, which you're gonna have like different temperatures for the color, right? So this one is probably like, I don't know, like 6,500 or 7,000 Kelvin. So that's like a very bright white light. If it was incandescent light, would be more towards 3,000, 3,500, something like that. But this is a very much like the type of light that people try to emulate in the studio when they have the soft boxes, right? They try to emulate a natural outdoors light like this, or a window light, right? So the softbox is supposed to be like a portable window that you're going to be using. So you see like the coloring here, it's something that, for example, like if I try to capture that exact same color, this is not quite ideal, right? Because it's a very direct light. There's a lot of specular in there and everything. But the common thing that happens is that if you try to capture the lighting or the color for something like this, right? So what you're going to be doing, you're going to be trying to actually just reproduce it, right? Like copy the colors from this and try to do as close as possible to what you're seeing here. But the thing that you're not considering is that there is a subsurface scattering that's happening here, and is actually going to deeper levels of the skin, right? And is actually capturing the, the blood vessels and the fat tissue and all this stuff from underneath. So you get this orangey tone. And for example, if you capture a scan, like from a light stage, you're gonna get the forms perfect, right? But then when you get to the lips themselves, not to the lips, but you get to the color of the skin itself, there's no way to eliminate the subsurface scattering that's in there. It's all baked in it, right? You're gonna be able to eliminate the specular, right? And get like a albedo color out of it. But the color from the subsurface scattering is going to be all baked into the model. So there's no way for me to actually try to filter this out when I'm trying to reproduce what I'm seeing, painting using a reference, right? So that's why when you get to the final result, it looks much more orange than it should be sometimes, because you're actually painting the color you're seeing, but you're not considering that there's already like a subsurface scattering happening there. So when you add the subsurface scattering to that color, you get a double transformation. You get like even more orange than it was before. So what I do with that node that I just created to tweak the RGB is this. So let's just cancel it, and let's go to an area like maybe the lips in here. So let's see. So actually you can see two types of skin here. So let's go to this area. And then here, let's just like go a little bit bigger like that. So instead of like relying on the color I just painted, which I was trying to match from a photo, right? In theory, because this one is reused from a previous model, but I'm gonna go to that node again, and I'm gonna do a few tweaks here. For example, I'm gonna click the middle of it, and I'm gonna put like 500, just make sure it's right in the middle, so 0.5. And the last one, I'm gonna do the same, so 0.5. So that means I'm actually just like going and setting up like those two little nodes right in the middle, right? Now for the selected value here, by default, they're all 500. It's like this, right? So let's just leave it alone for a second here and wait until it renders a little bit more. Not a lot, just to have a little preview of the color, like that. So I'm gonna just store this, so you have it for comparison. Bring it down a little bit. And then I'm gonna cancel it. Actually, not gonna cancel, I'm gonna leave it doing its thing. And I'm just gonna do two things here. The red channel, I'm gonna reduce a little bit. So instead of 500 or 0.500, 0.470. So I'm eliminating a little bit of the redness. And then for the blue channel, I'm gonna increase it from 500 to 520 or something like that. You have to see like according to your model, of course, right? So if you go like too far, for example, if you do like a 600 here, that gets a little bit too blue sometimes, you know? And if I reduce this one too much, it removes too much of the redness of the skin, it gets too pale, right? So remember, like when you talk about like a pale skin, the thing that comes to mind to me, for example, like you go to it's like you see a movie where you see someone dead in a morgue, right? And basically like they have this white bluish tone, and it basically like the blood is not flowing there anymore, right? It's not reaching the surface or anything like that. So the skin is going to be slightly bluish that way, right? So you're not going to get like all the blood flow underneath. So that's basically what I'm trying to emulate here. I'm actually removing a little bit of the baked subsurface scattering that came in the map, because when I painted the color, it was based on a reference, right? So I'm going to be playing with those values. For example, around here, let's say for her skin, because she's very pale, maybe I can use like 450. So it still has some red in there, but not a lot. And then for the blue, instead of like going too crazy, let's put 550 here. So still get a little bit of the warm tone, but without being too crazy. So if I switch between those two here, you see the difference? So for example, like this is the original, this is the new one. See, like that's more pale now. So that's a good the node to have. For example, like you can do the opposite. You can actually turn the skin a little bit darker. You know, it's like you can bring all those values down, including the green, and make the skin darker. You can colorize stuff. For example, my Hellboy that I did, like let's show you this one. Let's see, Instagram. I basically like I painted Hellboy with the skin color, a normal skin color, and then using that node, I actually shifted it to red. So like this whole thing here, the skin is actually started with regular skin color, right? So everything is painted with the skin color, and then I shifted towards red just by using that node. And by doing that, for example, like stuff like the stubble I had painted into the map, and some variations of the color and darker spots and things like that, everything was captured. It's just like shifted towards a red color, right? So so here you can see like I don't have a specular map just yet, right? Everything is very shiny, so you're gonna be playing with that. But at least now we're gonna have more breakup in these areas around the lips and none of the breakup into the lips themselves. But if I look at the reference here, in her case, if I look at those lips, there is a little bit of a micro detail happening in between here as well. So, but there is no stretch happening here, right? So for example, if I look out here, there is no stretch happening. So I see some of the micro breakup, but as soon as all the structure starts stretching, it's kind of like a paper thin structure, right? You know, when you cut your lip, it's like super thin in there. So I'm not gonna be seeing a lot of those micro detail in there. But I think I'm going to be adding some of it, at least like to break up the super, shiny surface like this. And the other thing I might do is actually, if I go for a makeup, I'm going to have to figure out how to blend. I never did actually blending multiple materials and stuff, but I'm going to experiment with that. And I think it's pretty easy in Arnold. I've seen some tutorials, and just add some makeup in there, you know, so I can have a version with the makeup on and the other one just like natural. But what I'm looking here, I'm liking already, because I can see like the breakup is actually working. So I have like the displacement map in there, and I have the micro bump now cranked into this area here, and then it's starting to modulate. You know, it's like the more you add those little details, the more you're gonna get like results, especially from close-ups. And the micro breakup that's happening is actually creating those tiny little sparkly spots. You know, the ones you see when you look at this paper, right? That stuff we are talking about. The original displacement map without the micro breakup, and then the render with the micro breakup. All those tiny little specks you see, it's because of the surface is being changed a lot, right? Like you get like those tiny little bumps in there, and basically like the light hits from different angles, and then it becomes like those tiny little sparkly areas, right? Especially the tip of the nose. Look at that. This is much more sparkly than here. So that's basically like the effect we are trying to recreate here. So that's why you're seeing those tiny little specks in here, because it's being like the surface is being broken down many times, right? Same around here. But obviously, once you have the specular map, we also going to be controlling how intense the specularity is going to be in those areas, right? So we're going to be able to eliminate some of the speck from certain areas. And yeah, let's see. You guys have any questions about this stuff so far? No, it's good. You guys are getting everything. Oh, you see, like those tiny little microstructures are just sculpted in there is actually showing here. So that's what I want to see, you know. The top here, I cannot see anything just yet, but I think it's because it's so shiny, and I'm gonna have to eliminate some of that. But I'm really liking the feel around this area here. It looks quite natural. It just needs a little bit of, you know, it's like some peach fuzz in there to help out. Here it still looks a little bit simple. So let's do a render since we are here. Maybe like let's get a little bit more, a little closer to the chin and the top lip. Let's try this one. Oh, the chin is gonna look nice. I can see it right there. I wanna see if we can identify that little micro detail. I just added those vertical lines, you know. So I can see that those tiny little lines I sculpted in there, they're starting to work. But I wanna see the micro stuff as well. So let's see. It's gonna be so soft, right? What I'm talking about is those guys here. Let's see if I can bring it up. Let's get back to this material. Up, 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 up. And then around here, let's do a preview. See those micro lines I just added before? Those vertical ones here? I want to make sure that I can actually see this stuff in some of them as well. But obviously it's going to be dependent on the lighting, right? And also how many samples I have. So in this case here, I have a lot of noise going on. If I add more samples to my render, it's going to increase the time, but also going to show me a very plasticky surface that's going to show me exactly what to expect from the specular map. Right at this point here, it looks a little bit diffused because it's mixed with the noise from the render itself. So I don't have a perfect idea of what's going on. But once I have, you know, it's like this stuff render with more samples, then I can see that how shiny it's going to get, how plasticky, and that way I can actually see how intense I need my specular maps to be. You know. The specular map I have here, it's very simple. I'm going to be showing tomorrow. I'm going to be painting some of this stuff. But you can see like it's a fairly low resolution mesh. So it's like 4 million polygons. And it's all painted with you know, spray. So basically like the spray. See, like I changed a lot of those things. So like it's trash in there. I'm going to have to fix that. But you see like, it's the most intense area is going to be like the eyelids underneath, right? Like it's going to be kind of like mirror looking, and the tip of the nose. Even the lips here, I don't have it super shiny. For that reason, you know, it's like since I'm eliminating with the bump height, a lot of the stuff, so I don't need to get it super shiny. In her case, I'm going to be using a secondary material applied in there, so I'm probably going to need different, you know, it's like pass in there. But you see like how simple this specular is? I have a little bit of my T-zone in here, which is not like super obvious, right? So I have the chin a little wider, the tip of the nose, and then going towards the forehead. You know, it's like it could be a little bit shinier maybe around here to create really the T-zone in there. But I mean, like when I paint stuff, it's always comparing to the renders themselves. And in this case here, I mean, like you see like it's kind of blotched in here. I can actually fix this and do a better job. And the intention is always like to push things a little bit further and get a little bit better with each model. So this one I have plenty of stuff to still do here. I can do it tomorrow, and then we can have some specular map to just plug in there and help out to make this looks more real, you know. But yeah, like the micro stuff, I really cannot see that much of the vertical lines, but those ones look nice in there. They look pretty nice. It's just the spec is too strong right now for obvious reasons. We have to do one thing at a time. But yeah, it's looking okay. Well, guys, that's kind of like what I had to show today. And tomorrow, I mean, like we're going to be exploring those other maps, plugging in here, making things look a little bit more real every class, and then doing some more sculpting around the other areas that we didn't explore. Maybe like some wrinkles in the forehead, the ears that I didn't have the time to do it today. But before I go, if you guys have any question, I can, you know, ask. Just ask me, and then we go from here. Are you guys okay? You guys are so quiet today. All right, so I guess that's it for today. And then I sent you guys a link to the you know, so you can download the classes from May and June. So everything is available to you guys now. And I wanted to do this a little later in the game because I don't want you guys to get distracted. But at the same time, you know, it's like the weekend is around the corner. We have just tomorrow. And then if you want to speed things up and then learn how to do the other steps, you know, before you even talk about it, just don't ask me the questions before we actually talk about them in the class. But then afterwards, I don't mind like answering, you know. For example, don't ask me questions tomorrow about the eyes because you just watched the video about the eyes today, you know. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
Chris.
one, guys.